So I'll talk about our new curriculum. We'll have a little break for questions. And then Michael will talk about all about our children's picture books, Flyaway, which is so much fun. So let me share my screen here with you all, and we will get started talking about Follow Me. So I am excited about this curriculum. This is the brand new curriculum coming out. Meg and David, who are the editors of this curriculum, just did a workshop during the workshop C time. So if you want a really deep dive into this curriculum from the people who know it the best, the editors, you can watch their rebroadcast of their workshop once that's available from APCE. So you definitely want to check that out. But this curriculum is talking about practices, about the things that Jesus did or told us to do. Because, you know, as we learn and as we start to really embody our faith and have that change in our heart, that should reflect to all aspects of our life and not just be something we focus on Sunday morning, right? So these different practices kind of help us take on the next level, right? And so we have something for every single age group here. We have something for young children, for multi-age children, for youth, for adults, and we even have things for your entire congregation to engage in. So we chose 36 different practices that you can use. And basically the way these are done is this is a unit-based curriculum. So each practice is one unit. And so that is fabulous because it gives your church about 3 years to study all these different practices. Each practice is about 4 weeks long, except for a few of them that we thought were ideal for Lent, although you could technically do them any time of the year. Those Lenten practices are 6 sessions apiece. But you can see that whole list on your screen of all the different practices that we chose. This also kind of follows the order in which they will be released. However, you do not have to teach them in this order because you get to decide what your scope and sequence for this curriculum looks like because you get to choose the practices that you want to use. So let's take a look at some of the components of this curricula. So we have a congregational guide, which is for your whole congregation. And for small churches, this may be the only piece you need. For larger churches, though, we have a lot of other things that allow you to split and work with different age groups. But this congregational guide helps bring everyone together and gives you a lot of resources to do. And we're going to talk about what all is in this congregational guide in a minute. We also have some great infographic posters. They're a nice big 18 by 24 size, so much bigger than the Big God, Big Questions infographic posters, if you're familiar with those. I'll talk more about those in a little bit. We also have, as I mentioned, different leaders guides for different age groups. You can see we've got young children is ages 3 to 5, multi-age is 6 to 10, and youth is 11 to 18. And we'll talk more about how we straddle that large age gap, especially for youth, in a minute. We also have an adult leaders guide. This is paired very well with our adult reflection guide. The adult reflection guide is the heart of the adult piece for this curricula. So this guide can be worked, it's kind of a workbook style, and you can use it either individually or as a group collectively. And when you use it as a group collectively, the leader's guide is the really helpful piece in bringing all that together. So let's talk about what's in that congregational guide, right? This is an amazing piece. One of the first things you'll see, every single practice has a foundational essay. And this is included not only in the congregational guide, but in all of the leaders' pieces and in the adult reflection guide. This is the heart, really, of the curriculum. We had amazing scholars come and write on these practices. And so each essay talks about one practice, and it talks about where that practice comes from in the Bible, how that practice is used and engaged, where we can find it in Scripture, and a whole bunch of other really great meaty things. This is it's very easy to read. A layperson can pick it up, but it's a very deep dive into the biblical roots of this particular practice. And so it's fantastic for things like putting together a sermon series on the practice. It's fantastic for those adults that are like, give me a really good, meaty Bible study. So it's great for that aspect. But there's a lot more in here besides the foundational essay, which also was what was used to create everything else that you see. We have worship helps. So not only can you talk about this practice and learn about it, but you can also spend time in worship doing this practice. And talking about it in worship and not just during your educational time. So we have liturgy suggestions, children's message suggestions, things that you can copy and paste directly into your bulletin if you still use one of those in like a paper or virtual form. Song suggestions, all kinds of great things that you can do and make part of worship so that you're incorporating this practice as something that your whole congregation is doing together. We have a cafe discussion guide. This is great. It's not a full-fledged lesson. It really is more of that discussion piece. It works great online if you're going to do something over Zoom. It's great for adults or young adults or even youth. And it's a two-sided sheet, and it has like some great info on the back and then some interactive kind of stuff on the front, which is really, really helpful. Also included in the congregational guide is a intergenerational session. This is great. There is one of these for every unit. So it's a great way for your church to kind of dip their toes into what intergenerational church looks and feels like. A lot of people like to use this intergenerational session to either kick off their practice or to celebrate the concluding of their practice, but you can also use it in the middle as well. Practicing the practice at home. This is a great piece that's also found in the young children and multi-age children's leaders guides. And it is to send home to parents. And on here is great ways that the family can, one, talk about the practice, can practice the practice at home, can do various activities together, ask wondering questions, think about things, think about like, you know, if we're talking about welcoming all, how do we practice hospitality in our family? What do we do when guests come into our home? You know, really allowing, giving folks a language to talk about faith outside of what happens, you know, during worship or during education or any of that. We also have some great curriculum connections. This is excellent for letting you have a bird's eye view of what each age group is doing each week around this practice. It's also great to share with parents so that they have some conversation starters when they're talking with their kids. They're like, what'd you do in Sunday school? Nothing. I don't know. You can actually prompt some questioning, get some answers out of them, kind of know what's going on. We also have weekly children's bulletins around for each of these units, each of the practices. And those are fantastic. There's some good information for parents on those bulletins, but there's also some great activities for children as well. We also, as I mentioned, have the infographic posters. I love these. They're a great size. You can get them in print or download form. And if you buy the download, we have a what do you call it? A rights and permissions so that you can take them to a printer and they know you have the rights and permissions to make this any size of your choosing. We have a set that is available for Bible basics. So this is going to be stuff that isn't necessarily, it's going to be stuff that helps you with using the curriculum or really teaching any kind of Christian education, but also is just some of that foundational pieces that you need as you're talking about faith and exploring the Bible and that kind of thing. But there will also be a poster for every single practice. And you can buy those in sets if you want the printed version of the posters, or you can buy them, you can also buy them in sets in the download version, but if you want to buy them individually, you have to buy them download. But these are great. I love them because you have great graphics and really solid theology. And it is really hard, and I say this as a Christian educator, it is really hard to find great up-to-date graphics and good theology in one package, and we've done that. So you're going to find a ton of uses for these infographics with the curriculum and even outside of the curriculum when teaching some of these important biblical foundational concepts. So let's take a look at what some of these leader guides look like. Like I said, we've got them for all the different ages in your congregation, and they're great. We've done our best to really help you and the leader make sure that it's going to do what you need to for your group. For our children, especially, we have these great little icons and symbols that you'll find at the front of each of the sessions. And those are great because they kind of help you have a sense of what the activities are about and what kind of activity it is. And that can help as you're planning and thinking about your particular group of kids and what they really enjoy doing and what you may need to swap out an activity for. But each session, no matter what the age group, has the same sort of template in terms of the formula that it follows in terms of its lesson plan. So you have the getting started piece, which is your gathering time. Then you introduce the practice. So this is your time to explore what is this practice. And then you do your Bible study. So this is finding the practice in the Bible. This is where you figure out, where is this thing rooted in scripture? And I'd like to make a note that even though all ages are studying the same practice, not all ages will read the same story every week. So you may explore the practice of hospitality and study something from Matthew, while someone else may study the practice of hospitality and study something from the Old Testament, for example. So we were trying to choose biblical texts that would work best for the different age groups, but we're all still trying to learn about this practice and engage with it. Which then leads us to our next sections. After we've studied where this comes from in scripture, we find the practice all around us, or we study the practice then and now, depending on the age group. You know, our younger children don't quite have a sense of history the way that older youth and adults do. So we're going to talk about, you know, where do we see this practice? How has it been practiced historically? Those kinds of things. Then we get the opportunity to try out this practice. We actually practice the practice in the session. Let's practice being hospitable to people, welcoming people. What does that look like? Let's try it on. And then following Jesus, that is your sending time, when you're sending people out to continue engaging with this practice in the world, because, you know, ideally we want to prepare people when we are in the church to then go out into the world and live out what it is that we are teaching them. So this helps them do that. With a note about the Youth Leaders Guide, we have some different symbols here that talk about the different kinds of activities that you're going to do, but also to really highlight those activities that go for more concrete versus abstract thinking. So we realized that having one youth leaders guide that covers basically all of middle school and high school youth, that's a big developmental age gap there. And so this works very well. You're going to have different types of activities to choose from with each of your main sections. And there's always going to be an activity that's a little more concrete thinking, and there's always going to be an activity that's a little more abstract thinking. So you can kind of make your choice based on where your group is, because just because you have a bunch of high schoolers doesn't mean they're great at abstract thinking yet. You know, different groups of youth have different personalities, and they're at different spaces in their development. And so this really allows you to kind of suss out what is going to be best for your particular context of kids or your youth, and figure out what's the best way to reach them with the content that we've provided. And again, I want to highlight that cafe discussion guide also works really well for youth, but you can also find that in the congregational guide. The adult reflection guide, this is the main heart and soul of the adult piece for Follow Me. And I love it because it's this workbook style, and it really does a lot to engage adults with whatever practice you're studying. And it's in full color too. And it's a print version, so you can actually write in it, and there's lots and lots of white space. So there's places to take notes in the margins. There's places to doodle, because not all adults write, fun fact. A lot do, but not everybody. So there's space for that. And as I mentioned before, we include the foundational essay in the reflection guide because some adults really want to dig deep. And so this is a great place where they can go to learn more. And then we also have the leaders guide for adults. And this is where, if you want to organize into a small group of some kind, whether it's a Sunday school class or just a regular small group that meets, you can use the leaders guide to kind of guide people through using the adult reflection guide in a group. So works great for individual study or as a group. And that's the beautiful flexibility of this. So we put together a bunch of different options for you all. This is not yet available for pre-order. It will become available in late February, early March for pre-ordering. But we've put together a couple of packages, and this allows you to kind of better put things in context for your particular specific congregation. So we have a small scale package and a large scale package, and those are available in print or download form. And we've included a congregational guide in everything because we really do feel like that's kind of a big central piece that everything else kind of scaffolds from. But you have some great options. We've included also some adult reflection guides to get you started in both of those packages. And if you find that you don't quite have enough in either of those packages, we do offer bulk pricing of the adult reflection guides so that you can get multiple copies of those at a discounted rate. You can also purchase things individually. If you are having a hard time sussing out what's going to work best for you, sometimes purchasing individual things is the best way to go. So that's available as well. You'll be able to order through our online store. You'll also be able to call customer service and place your order. Any of those options are available to you. So I hope that you have enjoyed this look inside of what Follow Me Biblical Practices for Faithful Living looks like. I want to let you know that we have a fantastic page on our store that you can learn all about this curriculum, and there'll be new things coming to that page very soon. We also, right now, they'll have a fantastic trailer that you can also find on YouTube. We have a great YouTube channel going up where you can actually watch a 3-minute video that really sums up everything I talked about here today in a much more fun and meaningful trailer. So you can definitely go and enjoy that. Also on that page, you can sign up for our email newsletter. This is fantastic for knowing like if we're going to do any webinars on this curriculum coming up, when new units are available. You'll be the first to know. If we ever do any kind of sale or anything, you will be the first to know. Also on that page, you will find the sampler. I want to spend a second talking about this. The sampler is huge. It is 90 pages. But you can download it and look at it, and it's beautiful because it gives you one of everything. So you're going to see every single piece in the Congregational Guide. You're going to see one of all of those pieces. You're going to see a whole lesson plan for every single age group in that sampler. You're going to see an example of the Infographic Posters, and you're also going to see an example of the Adult Reflection Guide. So that is a really great way to really dive into this curriculum because you have everything for like a single session of a single unit. So you can really see the scope and what is possible with this particular curriculum. So that is the gist of what I have to share. One last thing I did want to mention, there will be some video support for this curricula. We plan to film some great interviews with the authors who wrote our foundational essays. And so I wanted to let you know that those are going to be coming to our YouTube channel. We'll have a playlist where you can check all of those out. We have some great authors that wrote these foundational essays, people like Tom Long, Lynn Fab, Marian Medina. I mean, there are just tons and tons of really great names doing really amazing stuff in those areas, sharing with us about these practices. So that is what I have to say about Follow Me for now. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to either engage things in the chat or if you want to just pop on and ask. Now's a great time. And I hope you've been seeing the great links we've been dropping for you in the chat. Well, Michael, do you want to share with us all about the awesome flyaway books that we have?
Certainly. You should all be able to see the. Nope, you're probably. Man, screen share. It's.
That was fine.
Oh, it was? Okay. It had messed up my screen, so I was like, what?
No,
something's wrong.
Working. You're good. You're good.
Cool. Flyaway Books is, if you don't know, PPC, Presbyterian Publishing Corporation. It is our children's picture book and board book imprint. We published like Growing God's Love, which is our best-selling title to date for beautiful Black boys to believe in a better world. I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. Who Counts? 100 Sheep, 10 Coins, and 1 Son. The Marvelous Mustard Seed, Who Is My Neighbor, the last 3 are books of the parables. So we publish a lot of different things that are religious, spirituality, but also what are values-based or ethics books that talk about social issues, like Crocodile's Crossing, introducing and talking to kids about the plight of the refugee. Bruno's Hat, talking to kids about bullying, and which isn't a how-to guide, it's how to deal with bullies. But so that's what I want to talk to you about right now. As a quick reminder, all of these books are available on peaceusastore.com. If you use the promo code APCE 2021, APCE 2021, you get 40% off all titles from Flyaway Books, including the Growing in God's Love, a storybook Bible. So great deals going forward there, and that is valid until the 20th of February. The first book I want to talk about is For Beautiful Black Boys to Believe in a Better World by Michael W. Waters, illustrated by Keisha Morris. For me, I mean, obviously, anti-racism is a very important thing and a big thing. But talking to kids about these things, we always want to insulate them and kind of, they don't need to know about this. But with the Capitol riots on January 6th, that night I was watching the video on my phone because I didn't want my kids to watch news about it. And the next day I read an article that says, tell your kids about this. They need to know it's a historic moment, but more than that, they need to know that good triumphs. And so our kids are going to hear about these news stories at school. They're going to hear about them everywhere, and that we need to talk to them about it. So this is a book talking about police brutality and racial injustice. It follows a family, mostly the young son Jeremiah. He's 12 in this, and these real life events are happening. Trayvon Martin, the Charleston Six, when they were killed in their church, the assassination of the 5 police officers in Houston. These events are happening, and Jeremiah is wondering why they're happening. They're going to vigils, they're praying, they're going to marches, but he really doesn't want to talk about it until closer to the end of the story. And he asks his dad because he's scared. He's like, "Dad, why are these things happening?" And his dad says, "The world is a rough place. It's messed up. But Jeremiah, you can make a difference." He's like, "I'm 12. How am I going to make a difference?" And his dad gives him some really helpful advice. 1, be an activist. Get involved. Advocate for racial justice. 2, pray. That might be the most important thing you can do, is pray and ask for God's help and ask for God to intervene. And 3, when you're old enough, vote. When your friends are old enough, tell them to vote. Until then, tell other people who are old enough, you need to vote. To change things, we need to vote. So it's a great book to really talk about anti-racism work, police brutality, racial violence with our children. It has a discussion guide in it from the Muhammad Ali Center in Louisville, Kentucky. It won the 2020 Goddard Riverside Award for Social Justice in Picture Books. And it just won another award. I found out yesterday, but I can't talk any more about that except to say it's coming. I think it becomes public on Monday, so my lips are sealed with any more information until then. But it's a really great book. Another one that came out this fall is A Very Big Problem. I have a vivid imagination, and I often wonder, what was it like in God's garden? And that's kind of what these authors do. They imagine what it was like. You have all of creation, and it's all peaceful and perfect and harmonious. And then they start saying, I'm better than you. The rain is like, without us, you're all going to die. You need us. The sunshine says, you need sun. The plants said, we need plants, but the animals are like, you need me. You need this. The earthworm says, I work harder than any other part of the garden. I'm the most important. And I mean, after all, being the most important means you're most loved, right? And then the children come and they think they are the most important and they're the most loved. And so they're fighting. And then they finally realize, God tells them, I love all of you equally. You are each my favorite part of creation. You don't have to earn anything. You don't have to change anything. I love you just the way you are. And then the last big picture is all of them sleeping on a field together. And it's a very cute picture, cute story about that God does love each one of us. He doesn't love any of us more than any other. The next two are related. It's Dedication Promises. It's a board book from Carol Wareheim. You may have heard of that name before, former APCE Educator of the Year. It's a board book that is a great gift for baby dedication. Now, Presbyterians don't generally do baby dedications, but you may know people who, are Baptist or disciples or whatever that do baby dedication. It's a great gift. it's actually very similar to Baptism Promises, which came out several years ago, which would be great for Presbyterians and is great for Presbyterians. So much so I took this to conferences, and non-infant baptism folks were like, I love this book, but I can't use it. We don't baptize infants. And we were talking in dedication. The language is actually very, very similar. We just had to change a few things, but it's almost the exact same book. And it's a great gift to give to families on the occasion of a baby baptism. It has a place you can write their name in it, and it has prayers that the family can share to understand what baptism is and what meaning and what place they have in God's family. Coming this April is Hiding Baby Moses by Judith L. Roth, illustrated by Melanie Cataldo, who is the same illustrator who did Home by Another Way by Barbara Brown Taylor. She's amazing. Just going to say it. She's an incredible illustrator. And I know you're all are thinking, what you really needed more than anything else is a new book about Moses for kids, because there haven't been any ever. This is really different from any of those, because Moses is not necessarily the story, it's the backdrop. The focus of the story is his sister Miriam. She's the one who's with her mother as she's making the reed basket. She's the one with her mother as they put Moses into the Nile River and drift him off, trusting God to take care of Moses. She's the one who follows the basket. Miriam is the one who sees Pharaoh's daughter pick up baby Moses. She's the one who comes, hey, I know a nursemaid, let me go get her. And she goes to get her mom. It's a story of a brave girl who's risking everything for someone she loves. So it's just it's using the story of Moses to really illustrate what children can do when they're brave, what girls can do when they're brave. So you've got a girl as a main character who's not being saved. She's the one actually doing the saving. So great story. The illustrations are fantastic. My favorite thing about it, Moses isn't white, he's brown, so it's fairly accurate in that regard. White biblical characters are one of my big pet peeve when reading children's books. It's like, they weren't white, come on. But this is very, very good, very accurate. Next we have Marissa. Would you please pronounce this?
I don't know, maybe I'll make you sweat up. No, I'm kidding. It's El Maravilloso Grano de Mostaza, or the Marvelous Mustard Seed.
If I had tried, we'd still be here. I'd be trying to pronounce it till 5. This is the Spanish version of the Marvelous Mustard Seed, which I mentioned way back in the presentation, by Amy Jo Levine and Sandy Eisenberg Sasso. It's a creative retelling of the parable of the mustard seed, available in Spanish. It's also available in Korean, and of course available in English. We also have Quien Cuenta. I can't pronounce that one. This is Who Counts? 100 sheep, 10 coins, and 2 sons. I'm not going to pronounce the subtitle.
100 ovejas, 10 monedas y 2 hijos.
There you go.
There you go.
It's also available in English and Korean as well. One of my favorite, actually, illustration-wise and story-wise from spring, this comes out March 3rd, is Arthur and the Forgetful Elephant. Arthur is the redheaded kid there, and I have an affinity for redheaded children. My daughter is a curly redhead. He's walking one day, and this large drop of water splashes on his head, and he looks up and he goes, "What in the world? It's not raining." And he sees a giant elephant crying, and he asks what's wrong, and the elephant says, "I don't know what's wrong. I can't remember. My memory's so bad, I can't even remember who I am. I don't know my name." And Arthur thinks, man, I know how bad it is when I forget where I put my toys. How bad would I feel if I couldn't remember anything? I am going to help. I have no idea what I'm going to do, but I'm going to make a difference. And so he befriends the elephant, and they spend the whole day together playing. At one point, Arthur is going swimming, and he's sliding down the elephant's trunk into the water. Very cute scene. Another, he's playing with friends, and they're coloring with chalk on the sidewalk, and the elephant wants to color with them, but of course elephants don't have fingers. So the children color the elephant so the elephant can feel a part of that whole act, and it's just very cool. Right after that, you have this huge colorful elephant and all the kids around it. It's just joyful. And Arthur introduces the elephant to his family, and the elephant says, "Wait, I have a family," and he trumpets, and this herd of pachyderms comes, and they say, "Grandpa, we've been looking everywhere for you." And they thank Arthur for taking care and befriending their grandfather. And it's a great book to introduce kids to the idea of memory loss, not just Alzheimer's, not just dementia, but I mean, memory loss of any kind. Because, I mean, it's obviously scary for those who are losing the memory, but it's also a little frightening for kids and those around them. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to be around that person. And this is a great story that you can tell them. It's like, be yourself, have fun. It makes a huge difference in their lives if you just treat them like you love them. And there's going to be a downloadable study guide that you can get from our website from the National Alzheimer's Association. We did this in conjunction with them to use this book in an education setting to talk to kids about memory loss. The next one is Walking Toward Peace, the true story of a brave woman called Peace Pilgrim. If you've heard about Peace Pilgrim before, kudos to you. Well done, you. My favorite phrase from across the pond. I've never heard of Peace Pilgrim until I heard this book, and I've read it, and now I'm like obsessed with her. She was like the coolest person ever. She was born Mildred. I don't remember her full name, but and she lived right after World War II when the world was about to gear up for another war that would probably destroy the entire planet. She was very wealthy, and she decided she really didn't care about money because the world was going to end. She had to do something about that, and so she had this idea of getting other people on board with the idea of peace. And so she got plans to walk from San Diego to New York City, and it took a whole year. And the whole time she is walking across the United States, 18,000 miles, they stopped counting, 28 pairs of shoes, the whole time talking to people about peace, getting them on board with the idea of peace, not just world peace, nations not fighting each other, but peace, shalom, you and me not fighting with each other, because that's more important than the big peace, world peace, because if we're fighting each other, you know, nations are going to be fighting each other as well. And it's a great lesson to really encourage boys and girls to be activists for what they believe in, particularly the idea of peace. But also, even when your ideas seem strange, keep moving, keep going for it, because you're going to make a difference. That's all the books that I had planned on talking about. I could keep going until, you know, we all have church tomorrow morning, so I'm not going to keep you that late. But as a reminder, all of these books are available on peaceusastore.com. Use the promo code APCE 2021, APCE 2021, and get 40% off those on the website. So if you have any questions, now's the time. If you're wanting some books on a particular subject, I'd be happy to talk with you about those, or whatever, questions about Follow Me, curriculum, WJK books, Westminster John Knox, any of those things. Any questions you have, feel free to ask.
Drop them in the chat or unmute yourself or whatever.
I assume Lynn Jappinga's books at WJK, that's also 40% off?
Yep.
Yes.
From Daughters to Disciples and From Widows to Warriors. So good. I'm going to lead a study, I think, in our church this fall on Widows to Warriors, and then next spring do From Daughters to Disciples. Really, really good books. They've got the study guide involved. They're ideal for a study group, and they make it really easy. And she's a great writer too. She's really
He's a
good.
good friend too.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can brag about that. Our publisher is telling everyone how great her books are.
I will. That's great. And your presentation is great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And I will definitely use that code. Thank you, the promo code before the 20th. Thank
You're
you very
welcome. Yeah, for anyone from Widows to Warriors is a Bible study book on women's stories from the Old Testament. It's 10-session study. It's a beautiful book outside, but the writing is so good. The whole thing actually came from preaching the women of the Old Testament by Len Japinga, and it sold so well for us when we looked at like where it was selling. It didn't sell to pastors, and that was the target audience. It sold to Bible study groups. And so we thought, I wonder if we could do a New Testament one. And then we began diving deep into that idea and said, why don't we just do 2 Bible study books? Still keep the preaching one, but create one, a Bible study, actual Bible study on women of the Old Testament, and then a companion volume, Women of the New Testament. So that's where those books came from. And if you're interested, we will be doing a box set, a set of those. It's not really in a box, but it's still called a box set. That'll be available later this spring.
I always forget to remind you that that if you want, going back to Fly Away, if you want to get a subscription for that and like get regular books, so you don't have to worry about looking for the new thing, you can call customer service, right, Michael?
Mm-hmm. Call customer service and say, Michael did such an amazing job presenting Flyaway books. I want every single one of them for the near future. You can subscribe and you'll get 40% off on those all the time. So it's not like you can only get them through February 20th. You'll get them all the time. And if there are any you're missing, Flyaway is new for you, or if you've missed some, you can say, I want to get these as well. And just, tell them what you want. And you can get those at the 40% off as well, the subscription price.
And so the way that works is every time Flyaway releases a new book, it's already going to get shipped to you, and you'll just get billed for it after it comes out and it ships to you. So it's a great thing for like a church library, or if you have a resource center, or if you just love Flyaway books and gotta catch them all.
If you have a Worshipman Wonder Room that has a library for kids during the wonder time to read, my church, amazingly, my church has all the Flyaway books in our Worshipman Wonder Room because I get them all for them. So, I do Worshipman Wonder occasionally, and those are by far the most popular books.
Oh,
Did Michael freeze?
yes.
I was like hurriedly looking at windows going, oh my gosh, did I freeze? No, Michael froze.
No, Michael did. And, I was going to make a joke about, churches inviting.
Meg did not freeze. Yay, Meg.
Meg is in celebration.
My daughter was. But she actually loves it now. But
we missed all of that, Michael. You froze for the entirety.
Well, I'm not gonna repeat myself. No, I test drive all these books, and it's gonna freeze up again. You know that. I test drive all these books on my kids, and almost without exception, when they are, and my son is 5, my daughter turned 8 this past Tuesday. Without exception, they have loved all of these books that were age appropriate. The only one that wasn't age appropriate for them at the time was Home by Another Way, because my daughter, when that came out, was 6, and it's a little longer of a story, but she loves it now. We read it this past Epiphany, and she really, really loved it.
So there's a great question in the chat asking, what is wonder and worship?
Worshipman Wonder. It is young children in worship. It's a book we have from John Berryman and Sonia something or another. I don't remember her name. I'm so sorry. Young Children of Worship, and there are two different volumes. Following Jesus is the second volume, and it's a Montessori style of teaching. And so you have you create the you actually there's in the exhibit hall there's I think it's Worship Wonder Workshop or Woodworking. Sally does all the figurines for them, and they're really cool. And you kind of play out the story, and it's a very it's getting them ready for worship. So you have a song, be still and know that I am God, and then so this is the time, we have all the time we need. We don't need to rush, and the kids, and I'm in the training for this and thinking this is not gonna work, just not gonna work. I've been a fan of like the teddy bear children's ministry, high energy impact, that I'm thinking, no, this is not going to work. And then I see the first time the kids in our church did it, and they're just rapt attention. I'm like, huh. It's very Mr. Rogers. It's very calm. You're telling the story. And so you tell the story and you're like, I wonder what this man thought when Jesus told him this. I wonder. And so you're asking those open-ended questions, and there are no wrong answers. There may be some off-the-wall answers because kids are involved, but there are no wrong answers, and it's really cool to see. And then when you're done, with the story, you go to the wonder time, and there are activities. So you could have coloring or painting, or they can retell the story with the felt and the little wooden pieces, or they can listen to Bible studies, or they can read. Whatever our church always makes sure there are different types of activities for all different learning styles. And they kind of reenact the story, and they reinforce that it's a time of reflection, a time of wondering on that story. They come back together, and you have a time of offering, a time of prayer, and you have the feast, which is you take communion together, usually fish crackers or whatever. And then you have a candle you light, and then you send it away and have the dismissal. It's a Montessori style of teaching that is. I'm a convert to it. I honestly did not think it was going to work. I kept hearing about it, and then I read about it. I'm like, no. I'm the Christian ed director at our church, and so I'm in this meeting. I'm in this training the whole time. Negative Ned, just thinking this is not going to work. No, but I'm not vocalizing that. I'm sure it's on my face because I don't have a good poker face at all. And then once again, I watch her tell the story, and I'm like, meh, it might work. And then I watch it with kids on a video. It could work. And then I watch it with our own kids in the church. I'm like, dang. I mean, my 5-year-old son, who is, he
is 5.
He's 5, and he's a boy. I mean, he will sit there. I mean, he gets a little noisy, but he'll sit there watching. They're all crisscross applesauce, just watching the story. They're watching these figurines move, and it's like, and it's calm, and it's so different from, I think, anything else they see and they experience in their world. If they watch television, it's all high impact, scene, energy. And it's such a great time where they can just sit, be quiet, reflect. And it's perfect. It's such a good thing.
Well, we should probably...
it's like godly play. John Barrowman, after he wrote these books, created godly play.
Well, I want to be faithful to all of our time, because I know there are other things going on, and we are definitely past our time. So we can definitely hang out and answer questions, but I also don't want to keep everybody from the other things they may be wanting to do. I know we've got another chat going on right now till about 5:45. So feel free to jump in on that. Otherwise, we thank you for your time and thank you for listening to us talk about all the things that we love. So.
Yeah.